All right, Heather.
Yes.
I don't know. Choose a letter. I don't have anything specific to interrupt with like I did with Justin. So pick a letter.
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to remember which ones they were. I'm going to go with C.
Random,
which I think is random
trivia.
topic of yours, right?
No, that's a movie topic.
Oh, okay. That works too.
Does it? I don't know if it does.
Because you don't have anything?
No, well, I guess I kind of do. Apparently, there's like a movie called like Being Mortal that was being made with Aziz Ansari, was going to like wrote, directed, produced it. All that stuff is based on a book of something, whatever. Apparently, its production got halted completely because of quote unquote, all it says is inappropriate behavior on set by Bill Murray.
Really?
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he was being like a sex pest or anything like that. But it does mean that he might have just been severely unprofessional, which he has done before. He's caused issues on set with on the set of what was that Charlie's Angels. Why he wasn't back in the second one. But yeah, he
I didn't know that.
Yeah, him and Lucy Liu apparently got into it, and apparently he was just a gigantic asshole in general to work with on that set.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, which is funny.
Yeah, I feel like you couldn't, I don't know if you'd be able to handle it if he turned out to be like a sex pest.
Yeah, you know what? At this point, it also wouldn't surprise me.
Just because everybody's turning into one?
Apparently. So.
I actually heard they also halted, they canceled making the whole Bright 2 movie that Will Smith was doing. And they are delaying production on some like National Geographic thing that he's working on.
Yeah.
I was like, like that.
Well,
I don't know.
Supposedly Bright 2 might have actually been canceled before the whole slap thing. They were slowing stuff down because Netflix is losing money.
Mm-hmm.
So
I figured because it wasn't a good movie, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
There's that too. It should have never gotten a Bright 2.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. And I just feel like that really sucks because I don't know, like I understand. I don't know. I feel like he's getting a real harsh punishment on some things. But again, maybe that one wasn't related to it, but like the delaying the National Geographic thing he's doing. I don't know. I just feel like it's a lot for somebody who has already apologized for what they've done. And it's not a common theme. But again, just my opinion, it was surprising to me. I was like, oh man, like people are really pissed at him still for that.
I mean, yes, it was a very public thing and it was a physically violent thing and all these things. But then there's like other people that were still in movies and still making movies that I would argue has done worse.
Exactly. And I think that's really what gets me because, yeah, I don't think I obviously don't condone that physical, abuse that he did or anything like that to Chris Rock. But yeah, I feel like so many people have done things much worse, not even apologize for it. You know what I mean? And like not getting this much of a brunt end of things,
Well, I mean, look at the accusations that have been leveled against people like Jared Leto, and he's made like 20 movies since then. Look at this movie, the things that we know Ezra Miller has done. Where there is video evidence of Ezra Miller physically choking a woman, and that didn't stop this movie from him being in this movie. It didn't stop him from being the Flash and a couple other things since then. And it's arguably the same type of thing. There's video evidence of violence. And I would argue worse. I mean, Will Smith, slapped Chris Rock. Ezra Miller was choking the woman.
Right. Yeah.
Hand to throat choking a woman. And that didn't stop them with this, that now they have been arrested a few times. I do realize that Ezra Miller is non-binary, or at least chooses they, them pronouns. I'm going to fuck it up a little bit. I'm sorry, but I will try. They have been arrested a couple of times since then. Very recently, too. It's like in the last couple of weeks, they were arrested like 2 or 3 times in Hawaii for being physically fucking violent with people.
Okay.
And
so it's a continued pattern.
Yeah. But it goes back to Ezra Miller choked a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it wasn't like accusations, anything like that. Video evidence of him choking this woman. And no one caring.
Right.
And
it's mind blowing to me. I'm like, how is this the thing? But like, I don't know. I feel like not that Will Smith should get off scot-free, or whatever, but I feel like he definitely is getting his, paying his dues for what happened in a sense. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, you have all that. Like, look at James Franco. There were lots of allegations levied against James Franco, and it took like he did like 3 or 4 more movies, and then finally they're like, okay, we'll stop now. Like, right. It's they're very weird when they react to things. They really are. And then there are some people that'll be in movies that they just ignore some shit with. And like, they know it's a thing and they just hope other people don't find out. Like, apparently one of the guys, and he's not a main character, but there's like one of the actors in that last Predator movie they did, directed by Shane Black, sex offender was in that.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And they just didn't tell anybody. And they found out later, and I don't mean the sex offender didn't tell anybody. No, people knew, like behind the scenes, they knew. They didn't tell his co-stars,
And isn't that what Olivia Munn got really upset about? Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you have things like that. And the director of Jeepers Creepers also directed, I believe, Powder.
Yep.
Also convicted sex offender. And nobody knew for a little while, at least not like a lot of people. Yeah. I believe there was like child porn or inappropriate stuff with children.
Wow.
And just kept making movies. They were just hoping no one cared or that no one would find out.
Yeah.
It's an issue now, but I mean, fuck, the third Jeepers Creepers, I think it was the third or fourth or whatever, came out like just 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh yeah. And I didn't watch that because I remember thinking, why? But yeah,
I did, because that was before I found out about him. Because I want to say I watched it right around when it came out.
Yeah.
I just had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting. And I just don't know how they decide who gets a more severe punishment. And maybe it is up to the independent people working the projects with certain people, right? Like maybe, the National Geographic thing that, I think that's what it was that Will Smith is doing. Maybe they were like, we personally just don't want to, we want to take a beat before we go on with this because of everything that happened. Maybe that's a personal preference of them. You know what I mean? Like, so it could be just up to the specific project they're working. But yeah, I don't know. It just is kind of little mind blowing to me how they're judging the harshness of, punishment in Hollywood per se of who should be more more punished for what they've done, if that makes sense.
See, I'm understanding of National Geographic because it was probably like Will Smith, like doing a voiceover or something. You know, they can be, you know, that's like a slightly different thing than just in general movie making, you know.
Well, I think it was something called Pole to Pole, where they were going to have him, like, I guess, filming adventures of him traveling from North to South Pole or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but I'm just saying, but either way, it's still slightly more along the lines of a quote unquote documentary type of thing.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's not a traditional movie either way. But then you have like, you know, an actor in a movie we recently did, Sean Penn. Savagely beat the fuck out of Madonna. Just tied her up to a chair and beat the fuck out of her.
And also Robin Wright, didn't he?
Maybe.
I heard that about her too.
I know for sure there was the one issue with Madonna, because I want to say in that one the cops even found her tied to a chair.
Wow.
You know, making movies, just not like I said, as recently as 2021, making movies.
Yeah, and that's something I didn't even know about until like maybe last year sometime. I hadn't even heard about that because doesn't matter anymore, apparently. You know, there's like an expiration date or something on whatever individuals decide to do. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they're just letting things blow over and then they'll bring stuff back or whatever. But
yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Because I just, in the long run of shit people in Hollywood have done, I think that this kind of just ranks as like, you know, it was just a shitty thing to do. Like,
right. Yeah, it was totally agree.
It's a shitty thing. It shouldn't cost him everything. Whereas
exactly. Yeah.
There's things that should cost people everything and they're still just fucking trudging along.
And I think the difference too is like how immediately you could tell he realized he made the hugest mistake of his life after he did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, but it's just one of those things that either way that in the long list of bullshit things Hollywood and celebrities have done, this is not, right. I don't think, up there in any echelon of, you know, you lose your, like, that, you know, this should dramatically affect his career. If they want to hit pause on some things to let the heat blow over, whatever, fine. Like that I get.
Fair, yeah.
It's a publicity thing, you know, but, there's so much mess with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. No, but that Bill Murray stuff. I was just reading an article about it right before we actually hit record. Because Keke Palmer was calling him out. Like,
really?
In vague posting about it on Instagram, apparently, but was talking about people being professional or unprofessional on movie sets and blah, blah, blah. And she's one of the main cast of this movie. And all this shit. And then it turns out, like I said, it's been shut down to investigate inappropriate behavior because of Bill Murray. So, but like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean to imply that there's anything sexual in nature with it. It could just be him being unprofessional and showing up late. And if anybody calls him out, you know, maybe being an asshole on set or something like that. But there's been no specifics as of yet. So.
Yeah.
So, way to start this off on a downer, Heather.
Right. I totally was not expecting to talk about that necessarily, but yeah, just kind of related to what your thing that you read about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we didn't even talk about the issues behind the scenes with Magic Mike 3.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
What's her name? Thandie Newton?
Mm-hmm.
She was supposed to be in it. And apparently after the Will Smith incident, her and Channing Tatum got in a huge fight on set, like a huge argument on set. And Channing Tatum left the set because of it.
Really?
And then she got fired or quit, depending on who you ask. Fired, quit. And then checked into rehab, or was going to be checked into rehab. Like, that's what her agents wanted. Apparently, the whole thing might not have as much to do with anything specifically between her and Channing or whatever, but apparently she was also going, she's going through a divorce also.
Okay.
And so there was that and this and that, and they think that she just needs a mental health reset, type of check-in. So when it with the whole rehab thing, might not actually be alcohol or drugs or anything like that. I haven't seen anything like that, but they wanted it to kind of be things are kind of falling apart for her. So maybe check into somewhere and just kind of, mentally get yourself back together and stuff.
Okay.
And she was already replaced by Selma Hayek.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Within a couple of days was already replaced by Selma Hayek. But and the thing is and I'll kind of give them credit for it. Like I said, people on set haven't said exactly what was said during the argument. It was just they know it started with the whole Will Smith thing from the Oscars, because it was a week or two, within a week of that, it all happened.
So discussing that, maybe.
Yeah. And apparently they took opposing sides on something with it, and bam, issues. And as right or wrong as it may be with some of that stuff, unfortunately, Channing Tatum is executive producer on the movie. So if he doesn't like you, and he can't fire you for it. And whether or not that's right or wrong is a whole other thing. But like I said, so people originally was reported that she was fired, but then her people and the studio both came out saying, no, it was kind of, she quit. She pulled out of the project because they were a week or two into filming also. So.
Yeah, probably a mutual understanding of, this isn't going to work kind of thing.
It's like I said, then even her agents and stuff were we're going to get her into rehab and blah, blah, blah. Right. So, yeah. But that was also the crazy thing about it is that's also how I found out they were making Magic Mike 3.
Oh, really?
I didn't know they were. And then, yeah, I didn't even know they were making Magic Mike 3 till I saw issues on set with Magic Mike 3. And I'm like, wait, what? It might be going to just HBO Max, actually. But it takes place in London. So I'm like, all right. Magic Mike going international.
Yeah.
I'm down for it. Because that's something I haven't got to see yet. I haven't gotten to see Channing Tatum air fuck the stage in London. So I'm excited about that.
There you go.
Yeah. Let's see how he incorporates the internationalness of it all into the movie. All right, let's do this film.
Somebody will listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by just Heather, because just like last week, Justin didn't see this movie. Well, Heather didn't see him last week. Justin didn't see him this week. Therefore, he didn't want to be on the episode. He was like, you know what? I'm choosing to let everybody down and not be on this episode. And I was like, Justin, think about all the fans and the children And he was like, fuck the children.
That sounds very much like Justin for sure.
Yeah. And then he walked up to a baby and took away its ice cream cone. It was very disturbing.
What a bully Justin is.
And he didn't even eat it because he was like, this has too many sugars and calories in it. He just dumped it on the ground and stepped on it and walked away.
Yeah, it seems very in character for Justin to do that.
Yep. No, just in all seriousness, Justin hadn't even seen the other two Fantastic Beast movies, so he wasn't able to watch both of those and this one in time for us to record. So we're doing it without him, which is fine.
That's better than last week when all I got was Heather just didn't watch the movies.
Well, in the case of Everything Everywhere All the Time, that's just because you didn't go watch it. You could have gone and watched it.
To be fair, it was a very busy weekend for me, but I understand. But I think also by that, I think it was decided that we were doing 2 that week a little bit later. Yeah. And I was like, oh man.
But it's not like we do this live. We could have done a thing where we did one, and they just pulled you in for the second part and go, oh my gosh, Heather magically arrived.
And you're right. It's my bad. I should have watched that second movie, but I just did not have the time last weekend.
That's all I'm saying is you guys just chose to not, be there for the Cinefans, unlike me, who just trugs along all the time and has not appeared on any episodes ever, or not appeared. So there. Oddly enough, I'm rarely not on the episodes because I couldn't watch the movie. I'm most of the time not on them because I can't record because I have to work or something.
Or it's like a happy accident of you didn't want to see it in the case of like the M. Night Shyamalan movie we watched. I think the old movie.
I would have been on that episode anyway because I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but it just happened that you had to work anyway. So it was like, that's fine.
I think the night you guys recorded, I did actually have to work. I'm just saying in general, I would have been on it anyway because I don't care.
Right.
So I have zero integrity on top of that. So I don't care if I trash a movie I haven't watched. It doesn't affect me one bit.
This is true.
So, but no. So we are going to trug along here. What is this episode? Harry Potter Universe, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them 3, The Secret Crimes of Gellert Grindelwald Albus Dumbledore. I combined all like 3 titles into one.
That was good.
No, this is what is this? Fantastic Beasts 3, Crimes of Dumbledore, or Secrets of Dumbledore.
Yeah, Secrets of Dumbledore.
Yeah. Should be Crimes Against My Senses. Anyway, we will talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with this movie. And we will have time cards, or no, that's not right. We will talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with this movie. And we will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores, and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes in the description to allow you to jump around if you so need to. That's what I meant to say. And then with all that, Heather, what are your spoiler-free thoughts about the Harry Potter universe's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them 3, The Secret Crimes of Grindelwald and Dumbledore?
Well, just in general, I wouldn't say that this series of movies is my favorite. I did think the first one was good. I was not a fan of the second one. I think it was slow and boring, unfortunately. But, and then this one, I gotta say I felt a little bit more like I did in the second one towards this one as well. Like I think it was definitely better than the second one, but I just feel like it took a while for me to be really invested in what was going on, which is weird because it's like a continuation of things from 2 other movies, but nothing about it was gripping really. in a way, which is sad because, I mean, they have some interesting concepts of things. They have really good actors in it, you know, but it just did not grip me. And I don't really know why. I mean, the story itself isn't even like a boring story necessarily, but there was just something about maybe the pacing of it, or I don't know, that just really, I wasn't super enthralled and captivated by this movie. I think that Jude Law is a really good younger Dumbledore. I've always liked Eddie Redmayne as Newt. I think he has some kind of eccentric charm to him that really works for this movie or this set of movies. So I think he did a good job in this movie. He was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. Other than Jude Law. I think he was really good at it too. But I think it was just kind of, it wasn't even more of the same. It was just more of trying to make a story about things that I just don't care that much about, if that makes sense. Like there's nobody that I feel that, I don't know, like, and it's not that the characters are not good characters. They do have good characters, but they just don't, I'm not invested in any of the characters really. Therefore not invested in the story. And they wanted to continue a story off of characters that I'm already just kind of, they're okay about, you know? I think that they brought in some new people that were pretty good too. I don't know. I guess it just was a little too slow for me and it just wasn't interesting, and it should have been. I think maybe more than anything, it's like a little disappointing because all the elements of this type of movie should be more interesting to me than they were, and they weren't. So that's really, yeah, I think that's kind of where I fall with it.
I'm going to disagree with you, Heather. I'm going to say the story was boring too.
I mean, I guess maybe the idea of the story was good, but the way they executed it was not. Does that make sense?
No, it was boring too.
Okay.
I get what you're saying, but to me, this was just the most let's get from point A to point B and fucking in this movie thing they could do. I read an article on, I want to say it was Bleeding Cool, and I'm sorry I don't remember the author's name about it, but there's an article about this franchise, this form of the franchise, this trilogy so far on Bleeding Cool, and he was talking about the problems with this franchise, and I completely agree with it. And it's essentially that we were lied to about what we were going to get. If you watch the first 3/4 of Fantastic Beasts, it's like a delightful little version of, and this is his words, like magical Pokemon. Because it's just random fucking creatures and they're running around trying to catch them and all this shit.
That's fair.
And then the last quarter of that movie and the following 2 movies after that is just Grindelwald, Dumbledore bullshit. And so you're lied to because of this setup. The setup was Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. So instead of getting like a trilogy of movies of just seeing a shit ton of bonkers ass magical creatures and all this other stuff, they instead shoehorn magical creatures into 2 movies to justify keeping them, quote unquote, in this franchise and keeping Newt around to do all this other bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the biggest flaw of it all. Because I, for the most part, enjoyed the first movie up until the end.
Yeah.
I also have issues with Johnny Depp being Grindelwald. That predates all this other bullshit that's been tied into Johnny Depp lately. I think that they should have kept Colin Farrell as Grindelwald.
Yeah.
Because he was fantastic. I was like, fuck yeah, give me evil wizard fucking Colin Farrell. Yes.
Yeah.
They give you that wonderful performance by that man and then just a bunch of nothingness by Johnny Depp. And then you get Mads Mikkelsen in this movie. I love Mads. I love him. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I especially love him as a villain. Oh, he's delightful.
Right.
He's just kind of nothingness in this movie. And I don't mean that as a bad take on him or his abilities. The way they wrote the character was nothing still. He's just a kind of subdued guy, just not doing anything. I'm like, you have a fantastic actor here. Let this guy fucking evil it up. They just didn't do anything with it.
I can agree with that because I think he did the best he could with the material he was given for the character. Because I agree, I've seen him in movies where he is the villain, and he's an excellent villain. He's like up there with Vincent D'Onofrio level, like with playing villains. Like he's great.
Him as Hannibal in the TV series is phenomenal.
And see, I haven't seen that, but I've heard amazing things about it.
Like that's where I fell in love with Mads. Was that. And I'm like, ever since then, I'm like, give me all the Mads I can get. Because they canceled that show on me. And I'm like, fuck you all. Give me more Mads. I need more Mads in my life.
He's very good about it. Like with the just being that villain. And he was not at all bad in this movie. Like he was far from the worst thing about this movie. You know, I think after Newt and
Jude Law was great too.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that's what I meant. Like after Eddie Redmayne and Jude Law, he's definitely up there as one of the better things about this movie for sure.
I would argue that Eddie Redmayne was the most shafted in this movie because they just made Newt so dumb, just so dumb in this movie. But the acting performances are there. They are milking every bit of nuance and emotion that this bare bones bullshit script would allow them to get. And they just sat there and gave every single ounce of it they could. It's just, it still falls short because there's ultimately no substance in this script.
Yeah.
You know, like there were those scenes where it's like Dumbledore and Grindelwald are talking and stuff like that, where they do such a great job of actually showing that they used to be in love and that there is still some residual feelings there, that while they have gone their separate ways and they're different people than they used to be and all those things, like there's still something there. There's parts of them there that are still just, they still just love each other. And they did such a good job of portraying that. It's just the movie didn't actually give them the foundation to sustain anything, you know? And like the thing I hate about Newt's characters, especially going on in these movies, is like they find just some way to shoehorn him acting like an animal. Like
I guess that's true.
Like a magic creature at some point. And it's dumb. It is.
You know, I can see that point. I don't know I think there's just something about his portrayal of Newt that I just really enjoy. I don't know what it is, but I just see him and I'm like, he's just very delightful as his character.
Well, because he embodies the innocence of Newt.
Exactly. I think that's what it is.
He does a fantastic job at that.
Right.
You know, he does a fantastic job of embodying the innocence that character has. It's just he's a fucking B-lister in this movie now. And even though the movie follows him more than any other character, it doesn't feel like he's meant to be the main character.
Now, he wasn't always supposed to be in all of them, was he? Yes. I thought he was only supposed to be in the first.
No, he was supposed to be in all of them.
Oh, okay.
But they've kind of changed what these movies were meant to be, though.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is supposed to be a 5-movie series. They haven't officially said they're going to keep the other 2 now. This might be it. This might end this series. And that's one reason why they kind of tied up a lot of story points in this.
Okay.
But not where they were supposed to tie them up. And that's the sad thing with it. But yeah, there's just so many things. I think so much of this movie was meant to just be damage control for the other 2, or for the first or the second one, for the last one. Because they went such a hard departure in that one This movie is just supposed to be like damage control. They just are actively just undoing so much from that movie to fix it. Because they're like, we can't sustain a series with the route you went. So let us go back and change it. And I think of a lot of it has to do with J.K. Rowling. I want to say in the first one of these, she was like a writer on it, but there were multiple writers. The second one, as far as I'm remembering correctly, she was the main writer of it. And then this one is she is just back to being part of the writing team. And in doing so, I think that that's what they were trying to do, is undo her stuff, because one of the worst things that J.K. Rowling has done since writing the Harry Potter things, when it comes to being Harry Potter specifically stuff, is the fact that she is very big on retconning a lot of stuff and quote unquote making it canon just by her saying it afterwards. So I was wrong. She did also write the first one.
Oh, she did, you said?
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
And Stephen Kloves came in and helped change the screenplay a little bit in this one. But I think that that's just kind of what she's been doing with some of this stuff. And she's just kind of made a mess of it. And they were trying to salvage it in this one and bring him back in. But no, it didn't necessarily work. This is just marginally better than the last one. And
yeah, I agree.
I really do. I kind of just hope they end the series here. Just no more. I can't do 2 more of these. I can't. There is just such plodding mediocrity at this point that I can't watch another 2 films of this. I don't give a fuck about anything.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're even trying enough to where that they could make me give a fuck. So I hope it just ends. I really do.
I just think it's not an interesting enough series to do it, which is sad because, and I already know it already had like it had a really, really big shoes to fill anyway, as far as like, you know, the Harry Potter movies were over. So this was just kind of a thing of part of the same world to kind of still give people a little bit of that magical world that was created. But just the movies super lack that same tone and everything that the original Harry Potter films had, because there was just so much more depth and, you know, so much more of the profound aspects of those movies. And I think, you know, there was more heart into the stories of it than there is in these. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that these movies are kind of also a fundamental misunderstanding of what people like about the Harry Potter franchise. Like, yeah, we liked the characters and all this stuff, but what we were excited about when it came to Fantastic Beasts and other movies and stuff like that were the idea of just seeing some more magical shit outside the confines of the story arc in which they gave us in the first few movies. You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, this movie, they kind of say, you know, they're kind of like, oh, well, fuck that. Like, you know, we think that you want just more Dumbledore and some Hogwarts. We're going to give you some Hogwarts because that's why you didn't like the last one, is because there wasn't enough Hogwarts in it. And if we don't give you these locations that we think you want to go, like, it's just like, no, that's not what people wanted. Like, we just want more magic shit. We don't necessarily need more of the other shit, you know? Show us some cool spells and show us some cool animals and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
that's what people were really wanting. And that's why the first one worked better. Like, I think there was some hesitation going into it because nobody knew what the fuck it was going to be, but
I think also the characters in the original, they are so much more relatable. You care so much more about those characters. And yeah, they've definitely had a lot more movies for you to care, but even in the books, like these are like the Harry Potter, all of them were just very much characters that you could either relate to or see part of yourself in some of the characters. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that's part of it too. Like in this movie, there's nobody that you're really just like, man, I relate to him. Unless, I mean, and even Jude Law as like a younger Dumbledore with his wisdom and all of this, it's not the same. You know what I mean? It's not even close.
it's not. You know, like you said, yeah, there are some tough shoes to fill when it comes to that aspect of it, but like this isn't filling that need, you know, like
Yeah.
even when you do give us some interesting characters, they do have like in this franchise, they have just this weird habit of instantly fucking it up right afterwards. Like the Kowalski guy, the baker, the human guy.
Yes. I was literally just thinking about that. Yeah.
Like he's a great little character, and I love the story arc they have of him falling in love with the witch. And that adds some interesting dynamics to stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And, they kind of tie in some trials and tribulations when it comes to that. And then in the second movie, spoilers for it, whatever, he turns down her when she has to marry him, and then she just goes, fuck it, I'm going to go join the guy that wants to kill all people.
Right.
You're just like, wait, what? And then, I mean, this is kind of a spoiler for this movie. And then it rolls to this movie, and then she's like, oh no, I don't want to be with the guy that wants to kill everybody, even though that's exactly what the fuck he was saying he wanted to do.
Right.
Like, you're just like, oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I mean, that they're trying to correct the problems they added in the second one. They shouldn't have had her done that in the second one. So what is this movie? A course correction for her character.
Yeah.
And that's all this fucking is. And it was very boring and plotting, and it felt like they just added some creatures into it just to justify Newt being there.
Yeah.
They just wanted to add some shit to like add some stuff. Also, I didn't know that there was like a president of magic. Out of nowhere, that's a thing. Like the chancellor of the Magic Confederation of Magic People or whatever. You're like, that's a thing? Okay.
Yeah, right.
So, I don't know.
I mean, and even the baker, Jacob, whatever his name was, I really mostly like his character a lot, but something about how he was in this one where I don't know, they make him not necessarily annoying, but they make him more like less of that heroic. They just kind of feel like he's like just bystander, accidentally a hero in this one, as opposed to like on purpose trying to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but that he very much just kind of happens into a lot more stuff. Like, I mean, that's kind of his character though, that like he happened into the whole magical world thing and all this other stuff.
True. Yeah.
And so there is that aspect of his character, but I get what you're saying though, because it does start to weigh on you a little bit when, his character just kind of always does that. And, and they just weirdly did his character in this movie. Like,
yeah. And you're right. He is like that, but I don't know if it's like they did it more like that or just the decisions he was making in this. I feel like were very much more like, really, that's what you're doing. Like, and I know we'll get into spoilers and everything, but one particular scene where you're like, really, that's what you're doing. Like you're trying to help this whole team of people. And this is what you're deciding to do in this moment. Like, it just felt really odd for some of the decisions he made. But yeah, I digress.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying with that. And they didn't know how to handle any of their characters. And it makes it worse because they add more characters and they put more emphasis on other characters. And so they just don't even know how to handle the ones they have. Like, I think that's the biggest problem with these movies is that they constantly add characters because they're adding stuff that, has been established in the lore previously and all this other stuff. And in doing so, they're constantly adding characters and not knowing what to do to keep the characters they've already added interesting, or they're just dropping off characters. They just abandon characters. And it's really, really felt in this movie because they abandoned several people for the sake of this movie. And it doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I mean, I will say
let's move on. Hold on. Let's move on so we can go into spoilers too, because we're just beating around the bush. So let's just keep going so we can just go into spoilers and talk more.
All right.
Yeah. So let's go.
Recommendations and score.
All right, go ahead, Heather.
So I can't really necessarily recommend it. I think if you watch the first two, or if you are into this set of movies, sure, watch it. You're definitely going to want to see how this ends, but it's not something that I think you must see in a theater or anything like that. It's just more watch it if it happens to be on like a streaming service at some point, which I'm sure it will be, but it's not very memorable. It's not very outstanding in any sort of way. So I'm not high on this movie. Really just recommending it if you want to see how this story is going to end, especially because this might actually be the end. So, I think, let's see. I guess I'll give this movie, I'll give it 45 crab walks out of a cave with your brother out of 100.
Oh, no, I don't recommend it in any way, shape, or form, streaming service or otherwise. I mean, if you're just an absolute completionist and you've watched all the 10 other ones, I guess watch it. But I don't see the point in watching this in any way, shape, or form. I really don't. I like your score, though. I'll give it a little worse than that, 42. 42 undead magic baby horse deer things out of 100.
Okay.
Spoilers?
Sure.
Spoilers.
All right, Heather, continue what you were saying now. We were just kind of beating around the bush a little too much when it came to spoilers. I figured if we get to this point, we can just freely talk now.
Yeah, I know. You're good. I was going to just say that I don't know if you'll agree with me or not on this, but one of the characters that I did actually like that they added was Lally, Jessica Williams. I actually liked her character in this. I thought she was a fun little addition. I mean, she's not a main huge character in it, but she was a good side character. And I would say of the ones that they've added for this movie, I think I liked her as one of the newer characters they've added. Yeah, I think that was not a terrible decision on their part to have her added. And I like Jessica Williams in general. I just like her in almost everything I've seen her in. She's funny. She's a delightful person. So I liked her in this movie, but it could just be me. But she was not my least favorite thing that they added in this movie. So.
What else has she been in?
There was some movie on Netflix she was in, The Amazing Jessica Jones or something like that, or Jessica James, something. It's a really funny movie. She was in Booksmart. She was the teacher in Booksmart.
Okay. That's where it is.
Yeah. You're like trying to figure out where you've seen her before.
Yeah, but too lazy to actually pull her up on IMDb.
Yeah. And she's in the, what is it called? Love on HBO.
Not Big Love, right?
Not Big Love. It's the one that Anna Kendrick was in, and I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Oh, yeah. I vaguely know what you're talking about.
Yeah. She's like the main love interest in the second season, and she's her and Chidi from The Good Place, and it's their chemistry, their dynamic is super great. So she's just really good, and I like what she does. And I just think she was a fun, interesting new dynamic to bring into this movie. So yeah, that's what I was thinking, because there's not a lot of great things about this movie, but she was a good addition, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, but I also felt
Love
like she
Life.
was there.
Sorry, that's what it's called, Love Life.
Okay. I felt like she was there though to replace the fact that they kill Zoe Kravitz off screen.
Yeah,
They killed the Zoe Kravitz character between the two movies. You know, and also they had Kate Watterson. They just got rid of her, and we'll talk about more of that later. But they got rid of her. And that's what I mean. They abandoned characters. They abandoned Zoe Kravitz. They abandoned Kate Watterson. You know, they abandoned the whole timeline. Like I said, the story point with what's her name, Sweetie or whatever, going with Grindelwald. You know, they just ran rucksack with all that. You know, and they did all that to what? Bring in Zoe Kravitz's quote unquote brother in the movie. You know, and I thought that was a really interesting scene, but it never came back to play into anything. So whenever he goes there and he's like, you know, Zoe Kravitz Lestrange was my sister and I blame you for her death. And he goes, well, then you wouldn't mind if I remove her memories. And he does. He removes all the memories of his sister away from the guy. But he's still a double agent in the end. And it doesn't play it. Like, that scene is such a cool scene. Because I'm like, oh, fuck, that's how deep this is getting. Oh, damn. Never matters again the rest of the movie.
Right.
Never comes back into anything. Nothing. And I'm like, oh, well, that's dumb then. Like, I was like, why are you adding this cool thing for it to never matter? Like, what was the point of the whole scene with what's his name getting fucking arrested? Newt's brother getting arrested. They did that scene just so they could have the Manticore walk.
Yeah. It like the leading up to certain things was like, why? Like, why was this your decision for it?
What was the point of getting Jacob the fake wand? I still don't see the point in that.
That's true. Because they made a huge deal about that throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, they did all of that so that they could have the quote unquote fake Muggle assassin. Right? That's why they did it, is so they could have the fake Muggle assassin. But I'm like, he's a Muggle with a wand. Could he use it? Even if it was an active wand, could he use it? They didn't actually say whether or not he, like a Muggle can use a wand. So like, I don't even think that would be an issue too. Why wouldn't they be like, well, holy fuck, a Muggle has a wand. All this stuff, like they did that just to have that fake assassination plot point that also comes back to not mattering at all.
Yeah, that's true.
After that scene and they like show the newspaper of it, it never matters again. That scene does not matter again. You know what it would have been better for it? If he was just holding a fucking gun. Because then it would make sense.
That's true.
Just pull a gun out on Grindelwald and go, fuck you, I'm going to shoot you.
Right. Like, I don't have a wand, but I have a gun. Yeah, that's true.
Going to give you some Muggle justice. I'm going to shoot you because I'm a fucking person. You know, like that would
actually would have been kind of funny.
Yeah. None of it made sense in this movie, though. Like fake magic wand. That, you know what I mean? Like, and it never really matters at any point. You know? And then they do all this stuff about talking about how he's just a great person. And then, and I'm not saying that they don't show that, but then you get to the end of the movie and Dumbledore's like, man, you don't have the case, so don't worry about it. Man, you know? And you're just like, oh, okay. So why does that matter? Also, what is the deal with the whole like bunches of magical cases? Because the thing is she goes into the shop and she says, I need 6 of these. She says, I need like a half dozen. I need 6 of these. And they already have one. So that would mean they need 7 cases. They just use 5.
Oh, wait. You're right.
Yeah.
Because it was the secretary, Newt, the baker,
the woman you were talking about, and the brother.
Yeah, you're right. Because
Dumbledore doesn't carry one.
Yeah, he goes with Jacob.
Yeah. They just used 5 cases. They had 7. Makes no sense.
Interesting. By the way, did you totally call that the secretary lady was the one that was going to actually have the right case?
Yeah, because of course.
Mm-hmm.
Because why? She was the one person they did not show during all the shenanigans of everything. They just don't show her.
Yep. Yeah. And the whole like them continuing to talk about like how reliable or whatever it is that she is. You know, I was like, of course, they're going to have her be the one.
Yeah, but I'm like, that is the worst film directing ever. When you're like, all right, guess which one it is. And it's the one person you obviously don't show.
Right.
Like you have to show them if you want to make it a mystery.
But also, I don't understand, like, why was it a big deal to not tell the people carrying the cases who actually had it?
Because theoretically speaking, Grindelwald, like any wizard worth their salt, can fucking pull your memories from your head.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
But it's not like they were capturing with anybody and like sitting them down to interrogate them like that. Or you could, what's it called? Like occlumency. It's the thing that Snape and Harry do for a little bit in the movies and more so in the books, where you can look into other people's minds. Like you can mentally invade them.
That's fair.
And stuff. And if you're not well versed in how to counteract it, you know, there's some trouble with it. And I think part of it also has to do with the very loose way they explained why Grindelwald can see the future. Because he had magical ghost deer blood sprayed on him.
Oh,
so he can see the future because of that.
Yeah, that's weird.
And so in doing that, that's how they, you know, if you don't know and you're playing as chaos, it's impossible for them to know too. You know, those types of things. I guess
that's fair.
But it's still not explained well enough. You know, like,
yeah,
it's just a mess. And they just do it. Like, I felt like they would just say things like that. Like, we can't know. And like, not everybody can know the plan and blah, blah, blah. Just so that the plan could be a mess and just argue that was the point. You know, like, oh, yeah. No. It wasn't that we didn't actually think any of this stuff through. It's just because you can't know all the plan.
Yeah, I mean, and that does make sense, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of a flimsy thing they did with it, though, because I'm also like, if they're after somebody and they have the briefcase, they're going to just assume that is the person with it. Like, why would they need to pull the memories? Because they're like, oh, this person has the case. That's it. And then they find they don't. And it's like, what? You know, well, but then I guess at that point they could be like, okay, who actually has it?
That's the side of it, is it's who actually does. Because I don't think that they completely knew that what's her name wasn't going to help them out either, though. Because she can read people's minds. And so if somebody knows they have the case, she might be able to alert them. Even though you as the audience know that she wouldn't.
Okay. Which lady was that?
The psychic lady that is love with Jacob.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
She can read your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody's saying that like, oh, I have it, she might be able to like be like, oh, they have it. Because they don't technically know that she's not on Grindelwald's side for a big chunk of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's that aspect of it too. It still doesn't completely line up, but I could see that argument with it.
Yeah, no, that does actually make some sense. Yeah.
But like I said, this movie's such a fucking mess. It doesn't really matter. Like to me,
Right.
it just felt like they did that to keep it general enough. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like they randomly bring up all this shit and they have the random magical deers that like, I don't know, that just, there's like 2 of them in the world. And I'm like, how the fuck were you using this as your system? You know? And also like,
Right.
it makes no sense too, because it goes up to Dumbledore and it's like, hey, I'm going to bow to you. And he's like, no, don't choose me. I'm not like, I like the fact that he was self-aware enough to be like, no, I'm not really good enough to do this.
Yeah.
You know, I liked that aspect of him. But what I don't like the fact of is that they're like, oh, you're pure of heart. He's not. Because also
Yeah.
his plan in the future is to sacrifice Harry Potter. That is his plan, is to sacrifice a child.
Yeah. And that is why you're right. I didn't expect that deer was going to go to, I honestly thought he was going to go to the human. I thought he was going to go to Jacob and say, you're the only one worthy.
I thought he was going to
because they made such a huge deal about him being pure of heart.
Well, yeah, I knew that they were going to go to Dumbledore because whatever, Harry Potter loves to act like Dumbledore's great, even though he's not. I thought it would have been better if it went to Newt.
Yeah. That because he's definitely pure of heart.
How the fuck
you know
is
what I mean?
Newt not pure of heart?
Yeah.
Of all the characters in this fucking show, Newt is the purest of all of them. How would it not go up to him? It would have been so great if it went up to him. Like it would have been great if it went up to Dumbledore and like Newt is right next to Dumbledore and it bowed and Dumbledore's like, no, it's not me. And then Newt's like, it's bowing at me.
Yeah.
And Dumbledore like looks and he's like, oh, it is. And then Newt could be like, no, like I can't do this. You know what I mean? Like, because he is so pure of heart. He's like, I can't be a fucking politician.
Right.
He's like, I want to go pet other creatures. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and that totally makes sense because I was like, if it's not going to be Jacob, it's going to be Newt. That was the only 2 that I was thinking it would be. Granted, it makes sense that it's Dumbledore based on the rest of what happens in Harry Potter and stuff. But yeah, I totally like Newt would have been the perfect choice. I'm like, how is it? Definitely Dumbledore is not more pure of heart than Newt.
Yeah, he's
Newt
not.
is way too innocent of a person in general to not be that guy.
Like Newt essentially fails out of Hogwarts because he doesn't give a fuck about anything other than like animals. Is essentially it in a way.
Yeah.
Like there's some other aspects to it, but that's what it boils down to. Like that's why like his relationships don't quite work and all kinds of stuff. Like that's all he cares about, you know, like, and it's such a more interesting aspect of it. But then it's like, also that's the worst system to decide who's going to be your president, because then they're just like, nah, go walk around the crowd instead. Just go find someone else. Like, it's just so weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And like, as much as they were trying to quote unquote fix the election to make it Grindelwald, like, they didn't try that hard. Like, it was so weird that they were like, oh, nope, we found that he didn't actually kill any people. Like, everybody knows that's a lie. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, everyone knows that, like, the lie is that they actually did something. No, they didn't. They didn't actually do it. But the fact that just the wizarding community was like, all right.
Right.
But
Yeah.
then, like, there were the crimes, like, yeah, he killed those people. Technically, I want to say it was in the second movie, wasn't it? I don't know. But then, like, why were they chasing this guy down from the first movie? He was already in jail in the first movie type of situation. Like, this guy's obviously been doing crimes nonstop. It's just so weird that they're like, but this one thing's not true, as we found out. So we're going to just not let it slide. It's just weird. You know?
Yeah.
And all of this is to set up the future stuff. Like, you know, they also have some weird battles in people's minds in this movie, which they never really establish as a lore type of thing. Like when Credence and Dumbledore kind of had their little wizarding battle. That was ultimately, yeah, it didn't actually happen.
Right.
It's like in their minds. And then they do it again at the end of the movie.
Yeah. And I feel like that was just it was just so unresolved. Even the mind battle was just so unresolved. It was just like, I'm sorry, walk away. Like nothing ever actually got resolved in that whole thing. So it was like, well, what was the point of this if it's not even like other than Dumbledore just saying like, yes, you're one of us and I'm sorry for what's happened. And then he just walks away. There's no like, that's it. Like nothing actually got resolved from that.
Well, and they did all that stuff just to have, because if they do make a fourth one, Ezra Miller's not going to be in it. So they're going to kill Credence off in between movies.
Yeah, he was about to be dead at the end of this one.
Like they should have, it's so weird how they would do that stuff. Like just nothing ever truly felt like it lined up properly with anything they set up before. And the thing is that's not necessarily uncommon in J.K. Rowling's writing. She kind of fucks up a lot of little things like that. Now, she's able to fix it a little bit more in the Harry Potter series because she would write a book and then people would point shit out and she'd have like 4 years to go back and fix it in the next book. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
And so that's how she could cover herself up, is she'd give some explanation in another book. And you're like, oh, well, I guess, yeah, that covers that type of situation. But she didn't really think that far ahead in a lot of it. And I think when it comes to making movies, it's kind of worse with it. You know, because they made the second one and it got kind of maligned by fans and critics and everybody. And they just went, oh, that means we need to add Hogwarts to it. We need to bring back all the old Harry Potter shit you know and love.
Right.
Not realizing that wasn't what people were fucking mad about or bothered about or annoyed about. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And this movie just, it does more of the same shit though. Like it still latches on to the wrong things.
Yeah.
And it also never really feels like it gets going. Like,
yeah,
there's supposed to be all this urgency. They keep talking about urgency. The movie itself and none of the characters really move with a sense of urgency.
You're right. And it's interesting because those two things you just mentioned, that combination of no real urgency plus kind of focusing on the wrong aspects of things, make these movies feel very surface level.
Yeah, you're not wrong with that. They feel very shallow because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they just recycle as much of the old shit as they can. Like that Grindelwald Dumbledore magic battle was just them shooting wands at each other with not doing anything. You know, that Dumbledore Voldemort battle, I want to say from Order of the Phoenix, is fantastic. There's like fire snakes and water and glass shards and like they're actually like fighting each other. Now I know Grindelwald and Dumbledore aren't really like on that level because they still have that history and stuff, but do something.
Yeah.
Instead of them just, you know, touching beams nonstop.
Yeah.
It's so boring.
I agree. Yep. And that was supposed to be like the big culmination of this movie, you know?
Yeah. Like that was supposed to be the culminating event and all this other stuff. Like theoretically speaking, if they do another 2 movies, there should be another battle between Grindelwald and Dumbledore in like the 5th movie. And it should be like the most epic wizarding battle ever because that is the lore behind it. The Dumbledore and Grindelwald had this epic duel and Dumbledore beat him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like they almost set this up to also be that, just in case they don't make some more movies. But then it's just not an epic battle, you know? And it must have been weird for all the people there, because they're watching them just stand there. And then in their minds, they're fighting each other. They're just like, wait, what? Why is everybody just standing here?
What's going on? Yeah. That's very true. Mm-hmm.
They're like, but then also nobody does anything. Like, if they're just standing there staring at each other, having a mental wizarding battle, why don't you just go fucking tackle Grindelwald?
That's true. So many other people could have done something while that was happening.
Jacob could have just walked up to him and shot him.
You really want him to do that to someone. I
do. That's all I want in this movie, is I want to see Jacob shoot him.
Oh, and okay, so going back to what I mentioned before, in that scene where they're at the big dinner and like he stands up and just it's very obvious that he knows, I can't remember her name, the lady that he loves.
Wasn't her name Sweetie or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
But no, like so just for him to just be so obvious about that and like almost blow, I feel like the whole plan of what they're trying to do because of, and I get that they're trying to say his love for her is so strong and like, you know, all these things, but I just feel like those decisions, anything when it came to her, he was just very like that guy that almost ruined the entire plan because of her in this movie.
I was wrong. It's Queenie.
Queenie. I literally just remembered as you were saying it. Yeah. Queenie. But yeah, anything involving him and Queenie, it was like he lost all of his brain power to do anything except focus on her and everything like in this movie. So it just was kind of like, you know, and I get that he's that very romantic guy with her and he's fully in love with her and all that. But I'm just like, every decision he made in this, like he sees her and he's just a complete idiot about everything. Like, let's go off to the side corner here and let me talk to you about my love for you while there's these dangerous guys around that are going to be following you anyway. And let me stand up and like really almost make a huge scene in front of all these important and whatever people, because like, I'm just like, get it together, guy. I feel like they did that a lot with him in this movie.
No, that's fair. That was like a weirdly constant thing with them.
Yeah. Like, and I get it doing it, you know, every once in a while, like maybe just even one of those scenes or something, but I'm just like, it was a little too much in one movie for him to be doing that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
And you're right. It just doesn't really quite line up really in the end. Like it just makes it very nonsensical with a movie that also just I think nonsensical might be a little too harsh because I don't think they cared. This movie is kind of just a bunch of not caring with what they did because there was no detail. There was no deeper meaning. There was no real thought put into anything. And I think that could be why he acted like a fucking idiot, because they just didn't care.
Yeah.
They were just like, yeah, do whatever. We don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Because they know like he's likable enough that people are just going to still not really care.
I kind of feel like, you know, that like they kind of also did that with the whole Newt thing with the Manticore, because it's not like they know what they're going to animate before they fucking film it. And I think that they kind of did that with some of those scenes too, that they were just like, Eddie Redmayne walk in a weird way and we're going to animate these creatures to do the same shit. And they're not even manticores because they're supposed to be manticores. Like that's not even what a fucking manticore is in mythology. Like it's a huge departure outside of a big scorpion tail. Like it's supposed to be like a lion, scorpion, sometimes like eagle hybrid thing. You know, it's supposed to have like the face of a lion and like the body of something and like the tail of a scorpion. Sometimes they have wings.
Yeah.
Like in this, it looked like a fucking crawdad mixed with a fucking scorpion.
Yeah. Less intimidating, if you will.
Okay, so manticores traditionally have the head of a human, the body of a lion, and the tail of a scorpion.
Okay.
Is like the main version of it. And yeah, and then they did weird fucking claw things, which also it's funny because in the Harry Potter wiki, which technically gets its information from the book version of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which is just literally like a book of just magical creatures and just talks about them. It says it has the head of a human, the body of a lion, and a scorpion's tail.
Mm.
And instead they did this and still called it a manticore.
That's a bit misleading. Yeah. I mean, I did almost. I liked where there was a scene when they were talking about the little creature, the little deer thing. And if I'm not mistaken, they were saying that they used to be the ones who would choose the head of everything, which is why he bowed to Dumbledore, right? But did they explain, and I missed it, where why did they do that for this when they hadn't done that in a while? Because they said a long time ago, that's what it used to be done. Why did they bring that back suddenly?
Because theoretically they didn't have any or know where any were.
So now that they had it, they're like, oh, well, we need to use them to see who the true one is, basically.
Yeah. And I think it was,
okay.
And that's why they kind of rigged it to be like, there was that tainted one that Grindelwald did, right? Because it was something like out of favor, like people, that wasn't what they decided to do for a while. And then all of a sudden they were like, yeah, we're going to do it now because they were trying to rig it,
Yeah. They're like, see, even this thing that we haven't used in a while would have said I was the true one.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's the only real way they thought that they could get Grindelwald past it, is to rig that aspect of it. So they were like, hey, we're going to bring it back because, things are weird now. So we're going to go back to the old ways where they never fucked anything up.
Right.
So, but also it was like the logic is they didn't have any. Because they're supposed to be such rare creatures that, finding them and using them for that became hard to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, they did all this stuff too. What was that fucking thing that at the beginning of the movie? It's all like a winged creature that blew itself up like a balloon, then decompressed itself and all of a sudden had magical bigger wings and flew away with it. I was like, what the fuck is that? That's a weird thing to put an explanation for, or not to have an explanation for, or to never bring back or anything. I'm like, no, that's the shit people want to see.
Yeah, they could have brought that back and maybe if one of the people with the correct suitcases or something was about to get caught, that thing swoops in and gets it, Why
didn't they just use that to fly the suitcase up to the top?
Yeah, exactly. That would have made more sense.
Come around the back side of the building. Easier. Yeah, you come around the back side of the building, nobody's watching it, and bam, go, haha, case, motherfucker.
Exactly. Yeah, why would they not do that?
So yeah, I looked it up, and apparently there's no reason why they called what they call in this movie a manticore, because it directly contradicts what they have described manticores as in the series itself. It actually contradicts what they have described it in other books.
Oh no. Why would they? They didn't care, did they? Yeah. They just didn't even try.
Just call it something else.
Right.
Call it a zibbity doodad. Anything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they just don't care. And that's the thing. It's why are we as a society caring about these movies? They don't.
Yeah, it's they got lazy with it.
This is just cash grabs at this point. It really is. And I've already kind of become disillusioned with the franchise anyway. I was a huge Harry Potter fan. Loved the books, loved the movies, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I've got some Harry Potter tattoos, one of which I'm going to try to figure out a way to change and no longer have. But, you know, with this franchise, when you really actually kind of start deconstructing it and looking at it critically, you find there's a lot of flaws in this franchise. You know, and it all, to me, stems back to J.K. Rowling. You know, she's one of these people that has her beliefs, and contrary to anything, really, she'll stick to them no matter what. And I don't mean that as necessarily a negative or positive type of way. I mean, there's something to be said about having conviction for your beliefs, but she's contradictory within them, you know, and it shouldn't be surprising, really, if you actually go and analyze Harry Potter. You know, the one Asian character she had in a Harry Potter book was named Cho Chang. You know, like the one character that they physically denote as black is Shacklebolt.
Oh, man.
You know, the Harry Potter books also really, and movies, lean heavily into anti-Semitic stereotypes when it comes to Jewish people. I guess they're anti-Semitic always means Jewish people, but anyway, because with the way they do the goblins in it, and whether or not it is well known or whatever in fantasy, a lot of times goblins are co-opted and used as anti-Semitic representation. They adapt them and they change them to be more fitting of anti-Jewish caricatures and stuff. Big crooked nose, kind of hunching, the pointy ears, the way they would, you know, hoard over gold and stuff. Goblins have been used a lot in fantasy to be anti-Semitic. And they leaned full force into it in Harry Potter with that. Like they take the goblins and they go their very anti-Semitic route with their design, and then also go, and guess what? They's bankers too.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes no sense. I mean,
yeah.
And that's not always, that's not what goblins are. When you get into true lore and stuff like that, goblins have appeared in a lot of cultures throughout the years. Like as far as like history and mythologies go, goblins have been around for centuries in lore. You know, whether or not you get into the red caps and stuff like that, like I think that is probably my favorite of goblins, is the red cap, or a kobold from Germany and stuff like that. It's gremlins are sometimes associated with goblins also, you know, but they don't have anything to do with that. They weren't meant to represent something else. It was like most monsters back in the day. They were meant to explain the unexplainable. You know, a kid randomly going and missing in the woods in Germany, you know, in the springtime. You know, that's how they'd scare kids from going out there. Be like, oh, the kobolds will get you. Same with like Ireland and Scotland when it comes to the red caps. And red cap goblins get their name because their hats are dyed and soaked in blood of their victims. Yeah, very fun. Love me a red cap goblin. I mean, and I myself have a very weird history when it comes to goblins, because I do play a lot of Magic the Gathering, and traditionally speaking, I play goblin decks. That's my thing. I play goblin decks. I love the mechanics of goblin decks. I play goblins. Even now, I don't play any current metas, anything like that. I play goblin decks. That's all I play. Oh, I say that. I have a fungal deck out there. My fungal deck's a little fun, but yeah, I play goblin decks. And that's something Magic the Gathering's had to change because some of their artwork and some of their stuff played into those stereotypes unwillingly because people didn't know for a while. Or it's not that they didn't know. It's just it's the mid 90s. Nobody was thinking about that aspect of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they've even actively tried to change some of that stuff and get back to a more traditional form of goblin because of that.
Yeah.
And another good goblin, and I love it because it's got a fun name, a bugbear. Bugbear.
I've never heard of that one.
That's a fun goblin name right there. A bugbear. I think traditionally that actually, I don't know where it stems from, but I know that played a lot more into D&D. D&D had bugbears and stuff. But yeah, it's bigger goblins. But yeah, Harry Potter played into a lot of those stereotypes and tropes and stuff like that. And looking back on it, I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of fits with how the type of person J.K. Rowling is. She just needed some token character. Oh yeah, because there's also a Jewish character in the original books. And it just instantly Feldstein, I think, or something like that was the name. Well, yeah, something like that. They just went Jewish name. And you're like, okay, of course. And she just played into stereotypes because she didn't actually care about adapting cultures or anything like that. She just went the quick, easy route with it. And then you look at the stuff that she brought when she was expanding the lore into North America and all this other stuff. All she did was co-opt a bunch of indigenous people's mythologies and culture. She just took the lore and stuff they already had and co-opted it and made it a part of her universe too. So it was, became a big fuck their culture and their beliefs and all this other stuff. It's now a part of my universe. And when you see things like that happen, you're like, well, of course she would do that. And then you get into the current controversy swarming around her and all this other stuff where she's very much on the turf spectrum of feminism with stuff, which is a trans exclusionary radical feminism. So it's ultra feminist, but trans people aren't women. And she is diehard that. And, she's gotten some backlash from people Daniel Radcliffe was like, no, I don't agree with that. And Emma Watson was like, no, I don't agree with that. And Eddie Redmayne was like, no, I don't agree with that. But then you have Kate Watterson, who is, like I said, notably absent in this movie. More or less came out and said was fuck J.K. Rowling, she's wrong. Was very, very pointed with what she was saying. She was very much
not PC about it.
Yeah, she was just directing it at JK, fuck you, you're wrong type of scenario. And then all of a sudden, magically, she's fucking written out of a fucking movie. So,
Right.
you have her character be a main character for 2 movies and then disappears essentially for all but 2 minutes. She's in it in a minute and a half at the end, and they show her for 10 seconds in the middle of the movie. Well,
yeah,
2/3 of the way through the movie. Yeah. Nope. That's why she more or less, that's not a why. We don't technically know why, but that's why. Let's be real. That's why.
Yeah. It definitely had to have been something. I mean, it was just such a notable absence.
Well, especially because J.K. Rowling is the writer of this movie. So all of a sudden she's like, oh, I don't have anything for this character that I've developed for 2 movies.
Exactly. Why would that be the case? Yeah.
Yeah. No, she got wrote the fuck out.
Wow.
Because J.K. Rowling is wrong. She's wrong. And that's the thing is if you a lot of the way she believes and the way that she's co-opted things and the way she's done things kind of fly counterintuitively to to the magic of Harry Potter. Like what originally attracted people to the franchise. She's very close-minded when it comes to that stuff. And like I said, you believe what you want to believe, whatever, fine, fuck it. You might be wrong like she is. But when you really go back and look at the original stories, her current attitudes should not be surprising. Like anti-Semitic goblin characters, Cho Chang, Shacklebolt. Like, it's just like, fuck. She's like, I know no black people. Black wizard. Shacklebolt.
Yeah.
I have to put a tie into slavery into it because I don't know what the fuck to do.
Wow.
Like,
yeah.
Even if you go and look at, like, like I said, Cho Chang. Like, yes. She just had to make sure that they, like, it. And I understand that there's aspects of, like, naming and stuff like that, you want it to feel authentic to the character, and stuff like that. But it's just like, it feels so lazy. And it sounds like she was eating at P.F. Chang's and just went, oh, that'd be a great name for my one Asian character. Let me do this.
Do you feel like part of it is the time in which she grew up?
You can say that, but there's older people that don't think as shitty as she does.
Yeah. Not to excuse it. I'm just wondering if like that might be a factor in like her mindset. You know what I mean?
And that can be. But then it also shows like that she doesn't want to grow and change.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to look into anything else.
Right.
She doesn't want to try. And like I said, that goes back to what we were saying about this movie. I think this is indicative of the problems with her. She didn't want to try.
Right.
I mean, I understand that maybe the lay people out there might not understand the deep and troublesome history of, like I said, anti-Semitism and goblins in fantasy lore and in fantasy books and stuff. I get that. But you're also not trying to write a big fucking fantasy novel.
Yeah. Fair.
And it's not like people didn't know that back in the day. I mean, that was open, and that's why it was done back in the day, because, fantasy writers were being anti-Semitic. And they wanted to fucking, put it in their books. So that's how they would co-opt goblins into it. That's why they did it. And she just continued it on and didn't want to change anything with it. Oh, another big, like a really good example of her changing the books, or the reasons behind stuff, book to book, to fit outrages and stuff like that, was the fact of house elves in the second book. Is it the second book? Third book? Second book? I don't know. Whatever fucking book Dobby shows up.
Oh, yeah. I think that was the second book, actually.
Okay, yeah. It is the second book. So Dobby shows up. And everybody's like, oh shit, that's fucking shitty. Like, that's shitty that they fucking enslaved a little race of elves. There's,
Yeah.
And then what did they change it to in another book? They were like, oh, actually, house elves love it. They love being house elves.
Right.
So it's fine. They love it. That's what they want to do. And then she was still kind of met with outrage. And then that's why, Hermione ends up, coming back with Spew, which is the, wanting to get rid of the whole house elf system, which all that's left out of the movies. Left all that out of the movies. But yeah, like Hermione is like, more or less trying to start a cause to get rid of, the institution of house elves, and to treat them like you would other sentient creatures. So yeah, but like, yeah, that's a version of what she would do. She wrote something shitty and she was like, no, they love it. They love being slaves, guys. It's fine. Which is like a weird, fucking thing to do considering, where have we heard that before?
Right.
No, it's fine. They love being slaves. Trust me. They love it.
Right.
Yeah. It's some weird shit.
That's true. And it's one of those where, especially like when you're reading them, and if you're reading them as a kid, those are not things you're picking up on.
You're not at all.
Yeah.
Even as a young adult, I didn't pick up on some of it.
Yeah.
Like straight up, I have the dark mark tattooed on my left forearm. Like at the time, I was just like, yeah, it's a cool little thing. It's whatever. It's like Harry Potter. It's nerd shit, whatever. And like now I look at it and I'm like, fuck, that's a wizard swastika. Like that's shitty. And I hate that I have it. And it's not an easily hideable spot. Like I said, my left forearm. And it's big. It takes up my left forearm. It's not like a small one. Whole left forearm. So like, yeah, that one I want to change. And I don't necessarily know how I can change it. It is a very dark tattoo, and that typically makes cover-ups harder. But I'm going to go talk to some tattoo artists about doing some changes on it. Like the way to change maybe some of the coloring and shapes of some of the stuff and to blend some of it out and, maybe make it something else while keeping essentially the main core of the shape there because you kind of got to, unless I just want to put a big, if it comes down to it, I might have to just put a big solid black rectangle on my left arm. Just like a big sensor bar across it if we can't do something else. We got to do something though, because I am personally no longer comfortable having it, with what it represents. Now and this funny thing is my right forearm is another Harry Potter reference. It's a Rabbit Patronus tattoo complete with magic wand and all kinds of stuff. But at least like, that's not anything bad per se. Like even if I can, like if I come down to it and I'm like, fuck J.K. Rowling and fuck Harry Potter, whatever, it's still just like, still just a little pretty watercolor, swirly blue tattoo. It's fine. I can justify that. I can't really come up with reasons to keep justifying technically. Like I said, a wizard swastika on my other arm.
Yeah.
So, yep, that's probably going to be the next thing I do is fix that guy. Either that or get my right hand tattooed. Because I look at my hands and I want my right hand tattooed also. But anyway, or my neck. Yeah. No, I'll focus on covering that one up before I do my neck. My neck I'm going to have to put off because I'm such a little bitch when I get tattoos. And I don't know. That one's going to kill me, I think.
Now, how big are you talking for your neck?
Like my throat. Like pretty much my throat.
Okay, yeah.
And up on the sides and stuff. I've already got my neck tattooed technically. I've got one on each side of my neck.
Right.
Like on the back sides, like it's my weird versions of like those tattoos that are like behind your ear. Except they're not because they're too big to be behind your ear. Like, yeah, I've got the Whataburger logo on the right side of my neck, and it's like the back right quarter of my neck. Like it's fairly big.
Yeah.
I've got like a Mario feather on my other ear or behind my other ear. It's smaller, but it's still rather big for it being technically like a behind the ear neck tattoo. Plus I don't have hair. So any tattoo I get like something like that, it's obviously you can see it. So. But no, it's just, I think, like I said, one of the biggest problems with some of this stuff is I don't feel like I should have been surprised by this bullshit with J.K. Rowling now or this movie.
Yeah.
I think all the signs of her being lazy when it comes to this stuff has been there the whole time. And she just doesn't care. She wants to be considered an ally by all these groups, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, fuck trans people still. And then you look at these books and you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like, she wants to do all this stuff, but she wants to cut corners and be lazy when it comes to portrayals of characters or portrayals of types of people in stereotypical roles and all kinds of stuff. She doesn't actually want to try or care. And it's been there from the beginning. Like, it's been there from the fucking get-go. We just didn't notice because, you know, we were all enthralled in magical spells and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I think like the older that I get, you know, and the more I grow up and come into my own as far as a person and what I think and feel about things, like there are just certain things that you're just like, I just can't be okay with these things. Like, and it sucks when something that's so like ingrained in you as important enough to, for example, get tattoos about, or, you know, all these things. It's like, it's ruining, you know, it's taking away the greatness of this whole world and this whole thing that was created. And I don't know. I just feel like, you know, you wanting to cover up your tattoo, for example, like that, it makes sense because you're just like, at some point, I can't be okay with it. Like I used to be somebody that I would go see a movie if an actor that I liked was in that movie. I'd be like, yeah, this is a great actor. I want to see this movie. And now I'm just like, I can't do it. If the movie stands for something that I can't get on board with, or if the person stands for something or has done things that I just can't get on board with, I just don't care anymore. Like I can't care anymore. I can't support it anymore. I can't just be like, but they're good at their craft. It's like, okay, maybe they are, but being good at someone's craft does not mean that you should support the craft because then you're essentially supporting the person. And I mean, just these days, you can't do that anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, like, I get what you're saying with a lot of that stuff. I mean, I used to love Woody Allen. I thought he was fantastic. I loved his movies, all kinds of stuff. And like, you know, that was like always like the film nerd aspect of me and stuff is like loving Woody Allen because that's what he did. He made movies for like film nerds and stuff, but they were still relatable and shit. And, you know, then you hear about that guy and you really break down some of the shit he's done and all kinds of stuff. Like, even if you don't necessarily believe the stories and the allegations of what he did to his own children and all this other stuff, like, look at what he did with his adoptive daughter. There's so many obvious red flags with that. You know, like, you can't go from being the parental figure to dating and marrying them all of a sudden when they turn 18 and it not obviously be some red flag shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and no, I can't support that shit. I don't want to support that shit. I'm you know, resigned to the fact that like, I'm just never going to watch a Woody Allen flick again. Like, and it really is that simple to me. I'm like, oh, that's done.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how I am with like Kevin Spacey. It's like, he was an instrumental like actor for me. Like, he was one of my favorites, you know, and it's like, oh, well, I'm never going to be able to see another one of his movies again, you know?
Yeah. And it's not, and the thing is it's not like I've tried with any of these people, but like, there are times like watching Death on the Nile and having Letitia Wright and her crazy bullshit anti-vax stuff and Russell Brand with his crazy bullshit anti-vax stuff. And then Arnie Hammer with his possibly abusive, but also possibly a fucking cannibal bullshit. It's so distracting when you're watching that. Like, I'm watching the movie and I'm like,
yeah,
that fucker might want to eat people.
It really is especially that movie, because he's supposed to be like this, like suave, like sexy guy or whatever. And I'm like, no, you're coming across really creepy now, like in anything you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like whenever there's like scenes he gets angry in the movie and I'm like, oh no, be careful. He might try to eat you.
Or when he's making out with you. Yeah. He might try to eat you.
Like he's thinking about how good it would taste if he bit your tongue off right now.
Right.
You know, like it's shit like that. Like I'm watching it and I'm like, I'm utterly distracted by all the bullshit of these people.
Yeah.
And I can't check out of that stuff. You know?
And I think with things like that, I personally don't think that you should have to. Like I get the perspective of like, oh, but they're actors, like this is their work of art. This is like what they do for a living. I understand that, but I don't think that you should have to just put aside their craziness of some of the things they're doing just because you like a movie that they're in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it does boil because like one of the few things we get to do as a society when it comes to like movies and TV shows and entertainment and stuff like that, we do kind of get to vote with our dollars. You know, like if I'm tired of seeing some shitty people get away with shitty things, even if it's just that they're just shitty people. Let's get rid of like allegations or any of that other shit. Let's just say, you know, you've seen them get caught by the like, or there's like a story come out and like somebody was just like shitty to people and they're just shitty on set. You know what I mean? It's just that they're just shitty. Okay. We can choose to not go see their movies.
Yeah.
And then in doing so, that affects their hireability with it.
Yep.
And the thing is if Hollywood has taught us anything, you're not necessarily guaranteed to do what you want to do. There's lots of people that want to be movie stars and they want to be actors and all this other stuff. You're not guaranteed to be hired for movies. You know, whether or not it's justified or not. I mean, and there's lots of people that should be in more movies and they're not.
Yeah.
Just because of weird bullshit politics. We talked about that in the episode with Everything Everywhere All at Once. With the guy that played Data in Short Round, you know, he was in Indiana Jones and he did the Goonies and he was just like, he thought he was just going to have roles left and right because he did those movies like back to back. Then he had nothing. And he ended up just kind of becoming a fight choreographer in Hong Kong for a while until this movie. And then you see him in this movie and he's utterly fantastic. Like he's got acting and action and everything. And you're like, where the fuck has this guy been? Like, why weren't people hiring him? It's not because he didn't do anything shitty. It's just like, no, they just didn't want to hire an Asian kid or an Asian adult after a while. You know what I mean? Like, that was the politics behind his shit. You know? And so, like, that's why, like, I just think it's weird, like, that, you know, if they come out with more of these movies, I don't think I'm going to go see them. Because I don't necessarily want more money going to J.K. Rowling. You know?
And that's fair. Yeah.
And it's like, we did Morbius. And I just think, though, in the future, I'm probably not going to go see any more Jared Leto shit. Because of this shit with him and stuff. And like, even if you're like getting rid of the allegations aspect of it, there's still a bunch of other bullshit the man does. Like, get rid of the fact that he was possibly grooming and texting underage girls and all kinds of stuff. Just the way he treats people on set with his method acting bullshit is wrong. You know? So like, fuck that.
Yeah, like you were saying, I think like when Denzel Washington comes up to you and says, cut it off, you know, you know something's bad.
Exactly. Like, it's just, We don't need more of that shit. We don't need to endorse that behavior.
I agree. And like, we need more of the, Tom Cruises of the world or Adam Drivers of the world, where everybody just says the most pleasant things about them all the time. And the Tom Hankses, and I think the Denzel Washingtons too. Like, we need more of those people, where it's like, oh, I've only heard good stories about them on set. Do you know
one of the things that actually drove Keanu Reeves come back in movies and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course.
Well, apparently it's just because he's just such a fucking nice person to work with.
He's like, I can't believe I forgot him on my list.
Well,
Keanu, like, we need more of him in the world just because he's genuinely the best human being to ever exist.
Apparently that's one
and I
reason
want to
why
support that.
That's one reason why he started getting some more roles, just even chances lately, is because, like, some people that were like lower people in other movies, like, they might just have been like a fight choreographer in another movie, like, and all this other stuff. They worked with him. And like now they're like getting to direct, or they're like the actual stunt coordinator and shit. And they're like, no, we got to get Keanu. And like, cause he's just great to work with. They just want to be around people that don't suck. Like,
and apparently that's why Brendan Fraser's making a huge comeback right now too.
Yeah. Brandon Fraser's one of them. Everybody talks about him like, in the new Batgirl movie or whatever, he's going to be the bad guy. And like the woman playing Batgirl was like, it is so hard, like, doing that movie because he's the bad guy. And you're just like, he's so nice though. Like in real life, he's so nice that it's hard to like switch that off when you're like looking at him and he's the bad guy. Like,
yeah.
And then like there's somebody who's talking about like Doom Patrol and stuff like that. They were just like, every day is like a treat to go to set because Brendan's going to be there.
I actually heard that about Jason Momoa too. Like even on Game of Thrones, like after him and, Emilia Clarke would have their scenes that were pretty brutal, he would always like check on her, make sure she was okay. Like, so it's funny when it's like the bad guy, but they're like the nicest person there, Yeah.
And like one of the stories that was funny that I heard about Keanu Reeves was like, it was like told like secondhand through somebody else, but like this, like people that are like lower end actors, especially that have like speaking lines in movies, they love working with Keanu because like of all the big name actors, he's one of the few that doesn't leave set. Like whenever you have that scene where it's the lower name guy and he's just talking more or less to the camera, like you're supposing that the Keanu Reeves character would be right off camera or, right to the side of the camera or whatever. Sometimes when they shoot those scenes, like big name actors aren't even there. They'll put like a tennis ball or have somebody just stand there and you just say your lines to them. Especially if it's something where it keeps getting messed up or something. And it's not necessarily a conversation. It's like directed points of dialogue. Like apparently Keanu Reeves is not about that. He's like, no, I'm there. Like you're saying the lines to my character. I'm there.
I totally believe that.
And like, if you're having a hard time, he's like, hey, yeah, let's work this out. Like, like he'll be like, hey guys,
that's what I want to support.
Give us a second and, work with you, like help you get through it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he's just a fantastic human being. Exactly. And like you said, that's what I want to support. I want to support him getting money. That's fantastic.
Like I would rather support that and have just decently good acting from people as opposed to the most phenomenal acting you can think of and they're terrible people. You know what I mean?
I would actually just rather every movie from now on be a John Wick movie.
In some way or another, it is related to John Wick.
A nice little John Wick rom-com, a nice little John Wick horror movie.
Yes.
Everything a John Wick. And there's just a Keanu somewhere in it. He doesn't have to be the main character. There's just a Keanu in there.
Yeah. Just make every movie a Keanu has to be in every movie.
Yeah, something. Just like that's the type of shit. Yeah, I would prefer my money to go to.
Yeah, like, 100%.
Yeah, I don't want to fucking give Jared Leto any more money. I don't want to give fucking J.K. Rowling any more money. I just fuck all that noise. I'm tired of all that. I want to give fun, good people money.
Right.
I mean, and I
Yep,
know
I
sometimes
agree.
that's hard because like you might have a big fucking cast of people. There might be only one shitty person in there. And then you got to navigate that because you might want the other 9 to get their money. You know? So it does get tough. I get it.
Yeah.
But that's where then it becomes, it's on to the individual. You know, what you're comfortable doing in the long run.
Yeah.
And I am personally, I kind of want Keanu Reeves just to set up like a Patreon. So I can just give him like $5 a month for the rest of my life. Just for existing.
Just thanks for being you. Yeah.
I just want to be like, Keanu, you're fucking great. Buy a sandwich on me, bro. And knowing him.
And then he'd probably just give it back. He'd send you a thank you note and say, but here's double what you gave me just for being a fan.
Yeah, exactly. Or he'd like do that, or he'd be like, yeah, thanks. I gave this homeless man a sandwich. And not that I would personally care that he used my money to buy a homeless man a sandwich, but he would probably go out of his way to not buy himself a sandwich with my money.
Right.
Like he would make sure it went to someone else. You know, and that's fine.
Yep.
That's why I want to give him $5 a month for a sandwich.
Yep.
Like maybe I can start a Patreon or a GoFundMe for him. And you just people donate money, and all it does is you just go, hey, Keanu, where are we sending the money this month? And he'll tell us, and we just send it there. He's like, man, there's this guy named Bob I saw at the coffee shop. Give him the money this month. You're just like, all right, Keanu, and you just give them the money.
Right.
Honestly, I think Keanu Reeves should just decide who the president is. He should be like the little Chillum Deer thing. Just line the people up and let Keanu Reeves go bow down to whoever he wants to be president.
That's brilliant.
And I'll take it. Because he is so pure of heart. I'm just like, yes, Keanu, you decide. You are an infinitely better person than I am. So.
That is brilliant. That should be a new role.
You know, maybe we can alternate. Like you said, apparently, you know, like Jason Momoa is a great person. You know, like just get these people that are good, wholesome people. And just let them go decide who, like they just sit there and they just talk about it in the most chill way possible.
Yeah, just a council of, Keanu and Brendan Fraser and like all these just super nice guys deciding it.
Yeah, just find the nicest people out there.
Right.
You know, and just let them to decide everything. Who else would be great on that council?
Let's see. Keanu, Brendan Fraser. I feel like The Rock would be good on that one.
No. As much as I love
actually,
The Rock,
he's a little controversial. It's that.
Yeah, and it's not even that he's controversial at times. It's just he does have some old schoolness about him still.
Right.
And so
I really do think I've heard nothing but excellent things about Adam Driver as well.
Yeah, we need some more women on this, though.
Yeah.
Who are some actresses that are delightful and nice people?
I have heard Emma Stone. Let me see who else.
Fuck it. Yeah, let's put Emma Stone on the council.
I'm just trying to think of people there. Everyone's like, they're the nicest like person.
The crazy thing is like 2 months ago, we would have said Will Smith.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. You know what? Let's put Meryl Streep on that.
I don't know if she's nice, though.
Really? I actually guess I haven't heard either way, but I feel like she would be, but I don't know. Up until recently, I mean, I heard the same thing about Sandra Bullock, but I think she's a little bit kind of like over Hollywood right now. So
I just found a list of like the 20 nicest celebrities. Apparently, Gina Rodriguez is super nice.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't know how I feel
that.
about this list now because it also has Tyra Banks on it. And she's also been notoriously a bad person. Same with Oprah. Oprah's not really a nice person either.
No.
Oh, well, yeah, Tom Hanks would need to be on it.
Oh, yeah. That's a given. Yeah, for sure.
Nope. I don't know if I like this list anymore.
They have some not nice people on it.
Yeah.
What about John Krasinski and Emily Blunt? I realize we do have a lot of men on this. Maybe just Emily Blunt. I've heard she's very professional and kind.
Amelia Clark would be a good one, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Seems like a nice person. Oh, Michelle Yeoh. Michelle Yeoh definitely needs to be on there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. She seems, yeah. I don't know. Apparently, this one thing I'm reading here says Meryl Streep's very nice. It says, like, you know, there was even one time she waited in line at an Apple store, just like everyone else.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, yeah, we can put Meryl on there.
I'm hearing Margot Robbie is very nice.
Yeah, let's put Margot on there.
This would be a great council of people.
Yeah, it would be. Oh, Nick Offerman and his wife.
Oh, now that would be awesome.
Chris, what's her name? Megan Mullally?
Yeah,
something like that.
Mullally.
Her. Yeah, let's put both of them on that list. They seem like delightful people.
See, we should have just done this the whole episode. This is way more entertaining than that movie was.
It is. Oh, fuck that movie. They didn't try. See, we are trying infinitely more right now to get a nice, diverse, good council of people than they tried at all in this movie. Oh, apparently Mila Kunis is nice.
Yeah, I can see that.
Ooh, apparently,
I saw Amy Poehler on this list I'm looking at.
Yeah, but I've also heard some bad stories about her.
Oh, Lady Gaga. That might be a good one.
Possibly. I mean, we might as well, I guess, put Tom Hanks' wife on there, too.
That's true.
Oh, Patrick Stewart.
That'd be amazing.
Oh, yeah, if we're going to put him, we got to put Ian McKellen on there. Because both of them are just delightful together.
Just preserve all of these kind people.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we say yes to Margot Robbie? Yeah, let's put her on there.
Yeah. I see that too, because like I have not heard a single controversial thing about her.
We're gonna have to think about this. I think from every episode from now on, we gotta just think of one person to add to the list.
To the council.
Yeah.
I like this idea.
People. Yeah. We just need more of that.
I feel like Lin-Manuel should be on this.
Possibly. We'll see. We'll need to get Jasta involved in this. And every day, like every episode, we'll each nominate somebody and then we'll vote on who to put on the list. On the
I
council.
like this. This is a good plan.
But we gotta make it as diverse as possible because, we want them. This is the council we want to decide everything in the world. So
Yes.
we need a variety of people.
What was it in the movie? The Council of, I don't know what it was.
I don't know, wizard jack-offs. I don't fucking know what the fuck it was. Like I said, it's something that randomly shows up in this movie only. And you're like, oh, okay, apparently this is a thing.
Yeah, right.
And also, I forgot to say this. They did a weird job of casting the chancellor that was leaving in this movie. Because he looks a lot alike with Mads Mikkelsen.
You are correct, actually.
Like,
yeah,
visually,
I remember at one point getting confused on like, oh, wait, that's not him.
Yeah, like it just visually doesn't make sense to have those two characters be so similar like that.
Yeah.
Like, it just kind of makes you go, oh, that's weird.
Right.
All right, you got anything else to say about this movie?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com or Facebook, we're Cinema Slayers Podcast. Twitter and Instagram, we're cinema_slayers. TikTok is Cinema Slayers Pod. YouTube is coming. This is like episode 195, maybe 196, maybe 195. I don't know what number episode we're on right now. But whatever episode this is 195. Okay. So this is episode 195. So episode 200 will be our big actual debut on YouTube. We are doing audio only at the moment. So this will be, you get to see our faces and all kinds of stuff with it. Episode 200. And we already know what that one will be. We're going to delay the normal time in which we would do the review to do it then, which will be Moon Knight. We will be doing Moon Knight for our official 200th episode, where we introduce video to everything, and you'll be able to see us from that point on the YouTubes. So check us out there whenever we start that, or now. Like I said, audio episodes of it, audio only episodes will be up on YouTube and have been for a few weeks now. So check all that out. Oh yeah, give us a 5-star rating review. We'd really appreciate it. It really helps us out. It's all algorithm bullshit. I don't know what it does, but apparently it does some shit. So, do that. It'd be great. Tell your family, tell your family's friends, tell your friends' family, and tell your friends, fuck. I fucked that up royally. I'm going to start that over with. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your family's friends, and tell your friends' family. And most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers of yours, because you know what mothers hate? This shit too. They hate movies that don't fucking try also.
Yes.
So every mother I've ever talked to has said that. They're like, you know what? I hate movies that don't try. And I'm like, I agree. So, yeah, do all that. And just like in the TikToks and this podcast, just remember, according to Justin, Moon Knight is the best picture winner.
Somebody will listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
I've already decided a few people for this council. This is my favorite game now.
Oh, that's what we'll do. Oh, that's perfect. That's going to be option E.
Adding someone to the council.
Adding somebody to the council.
I might start picking that every time because that's fun.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to have a council debate every time. Get people's suggestions.
Yes.
All right. I'm out.